The courtroom in Fairview, Ohio, rang with the raw, ugly laughter of three veteran cops who believed they owned the night. Shackled at the wrists and ankles, the quiet black man before them looked like every other traveler they had broken on that lonely stretch of Interstate 90. Another easy mark, another wallet to empty. They waited for the judge to finish the job. Then the heavy oak doors of Courtroom B exploded inward. A fleet of black SUVs had sealed every exit of the courthouse. Federal agents in full tactical kit flooded the gallery. The defendant, still standing in chains, simply reached into the pocket of his worn sweater, produced a heavy gold badge, and held it high enough for the entire room to see. The judge's face went the color of old paper. The laughter died as if someone had cut its throat. 12 hours earlier, the rusted metal sign on the shoulder of Interstate 90 had read, "Welcome to Fairview, Ohio, a community of trust." Derek Whitmore allowed himself a thin, humorless smile as he read it. Trust was the last thing this place sold. For 18 months, federal infrastructure money meant for roads, schools, and community policing had vanished into the town's accounts without a single public improvement to show for it. 3 auditors had been sent. 2 left under threat. The third was arrested on planted drug charges that ended his career. Derek was not an auditor. At 52, with silver at the temples and the quiet physical presence of a man who had spent a lifetime walking into rooms that wanted him dead, he had been confirmed by the Senate only weeks earlier as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Tonight he wore none of the armor of that office. No motorcade, no detail, no tailored suit. Just a faded navy sweater, jeans gone soft at the knees, and a pair of scuffed work boots. He wanted to feel the temperature of the water before he ordered the swamp drained. It was 11:42 p.m. The highway was empty, the pines on either side tall enough to swallow the moon. Derek kept the 2014 Malibu 2 miles under the limit, hands at 10 and 2, eyes flicking to the mirrors every few seconds. He did not have to wait long. Headlights closed hard from behind, riding the bumper until the glare erased the rear view. Derek never touched the brake. A moment later, the red and blues lit up the night, and the siren gave a single, arrogant chirp. He signaled, pulled onto the gravel shoulder, shut the engine off, and rolled the window down. Both hands stayed visible on the wheel. 2 figures climbed out of an $80,000 pursuit cruiser that had no business belonging to a town that could not fix its own potholes. The first officer approached the driver's door with one hand resting on the butt of his sidearm. Thick-necked, gum working slow and aggressive. Name tag, Roscoe. The second, younger, eyes too bright, flanked the passenger side and drove a high-lumen maglite straight into Derek's face. "License, registration, and proof of insurance," Officer Trent Roscoe barked, skipping any greeting. "Evening, officer," Derek answered, voice mild, the careful deference of a man who did not want trouble. "May I ask why I was stopped?" "I asked the questions, buddy. You were swerving, crossed the center line twice. Papers, now." Derek kept his hands where they were. "I assure you I stayed in my lane. Wallet's in my right rear pocket. Registration's in the glove box. I'm going to reach for them. That all right?" Roscoe smirked across the roof at his partner. "Listen to this guy. Talks like a lawyer. Go ahead. Slow." Derek handed over the sterile bureau alias license, Marcus Davis, Maryland civilian, and the registration. Roscoe studied both under the light, then the face that matched. "Maryland, long way from home, Marcus. Looking for trouble?" "Just passing through to Chicago. Prefer the night roads, less traffic." "Step out of the vehicle." Derek did not move. "Officer, I haven't committed a traffic violation. I've given you my documents. Am I under arrest?" The veneer cracked. Roscoe's face flushed dark. He unsnapped the retention strap on his holster. "I said get out of the damn car. You're nervous and I smell marijuana. Probable cause. Out." Derek cataloged every word. Title 18, United States Code, Section 242. He unbuckled, stepped into the cold, and placed both palms on the hood when ordered. Roscoe kicked his feet wider, nearly knocking him off balance, and ran a rough, invasive pat-down. Phone, money clip, keys hit the hood. "Search the car," Roscoe told his partner. "Officer, I do not consent to a search of my vehicle," Derek said, loud enough for any working dash camera. "Don't care," Roscoe whispered against his ear. "You don't have rights here, Marcus. This is my town." 10 minutes later, the younger officer, Mason Cole, emerged holding a clear plastic baggie of white powder. "Look what was under the floor mat, Trent." Roscoe's chuckle was low and ugly. "Passing through to Chicago, huh? Looks like trafficking. Felony." Derek stared at the baggie. The anger that rose in him was not personal. It was for every voiceless driver who had stood in this exact gravel and watched their lives get manufactured into evidence. "That does not belong to me," he said, voice dropping an octave. "And you know it." Roscoe slammed him against the hood, yanked his arms back, and ratcheted the cuffs tight enough to cut skin. The Miranda warning came out like a joke. They shoved him into the cage of the cruiser. Derek sat perfectly upright as the door slammed. The trap was set. They thought they had caught a stray dog. They had dragged a wolf into their own den. The Fairview Police Department occupied a brutalist brick bunker on the edge of town that smelled of industrial bleach, stale sweat, and cheap cigars. Derek was hauled through the back door, still cuffed. The bullpen was lively for 1 in the morning, officers drinking coffee, laughing. When Roscoe and Cole pushed him in, the room went quiet for half a second, then erupted. "Look what the cat dragged in. Major drug bust, boys," Roscoe announced. "Maryland plates, snow under the floorboards. Resisted, too." Derek said nothing. His eyes moved, logging the expensive tactical gear that was never standard issue, the Rolex on the booking sergeant's wrist, the badge numbers, the dead red light on the corner camera. "Name?" the sergeant grunted without looking up. "Marcus Davis. Empty your pockets. Oh wait, already done." Laughter. "Print him. Cell 4. Let him marinate till the captain comes in." "I am requesting my right to a phone call," Derek said. The words cut clean through the noise. Roscoe leaned in until their faces were inches apart. "You get a phone call when we say you get a phone call. Phones are down. Tragic, isn't it?" The room howled. Derek never broke eye contact. "I'm documenting the refusal." They shoved him down the narrow hallway. Cell 4 was a 6x8 concrete box with a rusted toilet and a steel bench. The bars crashed shut. For the next 6 hours, Derek sat motionless. He did not sleep. He did not pace. He listened. He heard the officers inventing the arrest report in the next room. He heard them laugh about padding the stats. He heard the corruption breathe through the walls. At 8:03 a.m., the heavy door at the end of the block opened. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Captain Thomas Decker stopped in front of the bars. Late 50s, silver mustache, eyes deadened by years of unchallenged power. He held a manila folder. "Mr. Davis, I'm Captain Decker. I run this department." Derek looked up but did not stand. Decker unlocked the cell and stepped inside, leaving the door cracked. "My officers say you were all over the road, aggressive demeanor. Unfortunately for you, they found a substantial quantity of cocaine in your vehicle. Your officers planted it. The dash cam footage from their cruiser will show I never left my lane, assuming the footage hasn't already disappeared." Decker's smile was tight and predatory. "You're a smart man, Marcus. Too smart. Here's reality. That camera malfunctioned last night. Shame. So it's your word against 2 decorated officers. In Fairview, we protect our own. The judge values the peace we provide. You're extorting me. I'm offering you a life raft. Felony possession means prison. Your life in Maryland, gone. But evidence gets misplaced sometimes. Charges get reduced to a simple municipal fine. $25,000 paid to the town infrastructure fund, and you walk by lunch. There it was, the exact mechanism. $25,000, Derek repeated. Cash or wire. Arraignments at 10. Choose wisely. Decker left. The bars slammed. Derek stayed on the bench. He had enough now to bury the entire department. He wanted the judge who rubber-stamped it. He wanted the whole tree pulled up by the roots. At 9:47 a.m., they shackled him wrists and ankles, excessive theater for a non-violent charge, and marched him through the underground tunnel that connected the station to the courthouse. Roscoe yanked the chain hard enough to make the metal bite. Walk faster, deadbeat. Derek kept his head high. The shackles set a rhythmic metallic beat on the concrete. Courtroom B was mostly empty. A few local lawyers, a bored bailiff. At the prosecutor's table sat Miles Langford, sharp suit, sharper smile, another gear in the machine. Roscoe and Cole took seats in the back row, boots on the pews, already laughing. All rise, the Honorable Judge Samuel Hargrove presiding. Hargrove came out like a man who had missed his calling as a drill sergeant, red-faced, heavy, robe snapping. He slammed the gavel before he even sat. Be seated. Call the first case. Docket 44-09, State of Ohio versus Marcus Davis. Felony possession with intent, resisting arrest, reckless endangerment. Step forward, Mr. Davis. You're appearing without counsel. Want a public defender? Looking at this file, Jesus himself couldn't help you. Laughter from the back. Roscoe and Cole high-fived. The judge smirked. I waive counsel, Your Honor. I will represent myself. Langford scoffed. State requests remand. Out-of-state flight risk. Significant narcotics. Hargrove leaned forward with false pity. Mr. Davis, I understand my officers spoke with you this morning. This town doesn't want to ruin a man's life. Plead to a municipal disturbance, $25,000 restitution, and we end this now. Derek looked from the smirking prosecutor to the judge to the laughing cops in the gallery. No, Your Honor, I will not accept a plea. I move for immediate dismissal with prejudice on grounds of prosecutorial misconduct, falsification of evidence, and multiple violations of Title 18, Section 242. Silence dropped like a blade. Hargrove's face darkened. Are you quoting federal statutes in my courtroom, boy? I am. The arrest report is a fabrication. The dash cam footage, stored on the state's remote cloud, not local servers, will prove there was no traffic violation. The narcotics were planted. Captain Decker's attempt to extract $25,000 from me in Cell 4 constitutes federal racketeering. Langford shot to his feet. Objection! Wild! Slanderous! Sustained! Hargrove roared. Listen to me, you arrogant son of a— No, Judge Hargrove, you will listen to me. The force in Derek's voice froze the room. The undercover mask burned away. You are running a criminal syndicate dressed up as a judicial circuit. You are laundering federal infrastructure grants through fraudulent municipal fines. I have been in this town 12 hours, and I have witnessed enough constitutional violations to put every sworn officer in this building in federal prison for the rest of their natural lives. Bailiff, gag him, contempt! Roscoe and Cole vaulted the pews, batons already in hand. You're dead, Davis. Derek turned to face them. The cold fire in his eyes stopped them for half a heartbeat. That was when the oak doors of the courtroom blew open. 20 FBI agents in olive drab windbreakers and full kit flooded the room. Federal agents, nobody move! Hands where we can see them! Roscoe hit the marble face first under 2 operators. Cole was slammed into the gallery and zip-tied before he could draw. Judge Hargrove stood behind the bench, gavel forgotten, face the color of ash, special agent in charge. Caleb Reed walked straight past the judge to the defense table. He unlocked the shackles with practiced efficiency and handed Derek a suit jacket and a slim leather credential case. Apologies for the delay, Director. We needed the wire fully recorded. The word landed like a physical blow. Director. Roscoe, boots still on his neck, stared up with pure horror. Cole was openly weeping. Langford sat down hard, staring at nothing. Hargrove's mouth worked soundlessly. Derek rolled his shoulders, slipped into the jacket, and opened the case. The gold badge and photo ID caught the overhead lights. "My name is Derek Whitmore. I am the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Judge Hargrove, you are under arrest." The silence that followed was absolute, except for the ragged breathing of men who had ruled Fairview by fear 60 seconds earlier. Hargrove collapsed into his chair. This is a misunderstanding. Director, I had no idea. We were acting on the police report. "You are a parasite," Derek said, buttoning the jacket with deliberate calm. "For the last 6 hours, an encrypted microtransmitter woven into the collar of this sweater has been broadcasting every word spoken in this jurisdiction to a secure server at Quantico." Langford made a high, broken sound and raised both hands as if the agents might shoot him where he sat. "You're all on tape. The extortion, the falsified reports, the deliberate suppression of constitutional rights, and your specific offer, Judge, to launder a $25,000 bribe as a municipal fine." On the floor, Roscoe spat blood. "You set us up. Entrapment." Derek walked over and looked down at the man who had slammed him against a car hood only hours before. "Entrapment requires inducement. I drove a public interstate. The crime was entirely yours." He turned to Reed. "Process them. Hargrove, Langford, Roscoe, Cole, federal holding in Cleveland, solitary, no calls, no local processing. Understood?" "Yes, Director." "And the precinct?" "We take it." As Hargrove was dragged from the bench weeping about political connections, Derek walked out through the same tunnel where he had been yanked by chains. Now it was filled with federal agents moving like a single organism. Across the street, Captain Thomas Decker was having an excellent morning. He sat behind his mahogany desk, counting a fresh stack of cash when the office door came off its hinges under a steel ram. Laser sights painted his chest. "Hands off the weapon! FBI! On the ground!" The coffee mug shattered on the Persian rug. Agents swarmed him, drove him face down, and zip-tied his wrists. Outside, the bullpen had become pure chaos. Officers who had laughed at Derek's booking now stripped of badges and lined against their own walls. Derek stepped into the office as they hauled Decker to his feet. Recognition hit the captain like a fist, followed by pure terror. "You," Decker whispered, "the guy from Cell 4. Your infrastructure fund is bankrupt, Captain." Derek stepped over the broken mug. "Agent Reed, secure every hard drive, ledger, and communication device. Forensic accounting team within the hour. The captain and I need a private conversation." The interrogation room was windowless, freezing, and smelled of metal. Hours earlier, Decker's men had used it to break civilians. Now Decker sat cuffed to the steel table. Derek entered carrying a thick red folder, unplugged the precinct camera, and set his own encrypted recorder in the center of the table. "Let's talk about survival, Thomas." Decker's forehead shone under the fluorescent light. "I want a lawyer. I know my rights." "You have the right to an attorney. Before you invoke it, understand the geometry of the trap you're sitting in. 22 federal counts, civil rights violations, racketeering, evidence tampering, extortion. Under RICO, the mandatory minimum is 40 years. You're 58. That's a death sentence." Decker's jaw tightened. "You think you can just walk in and topple my town? We have friends in the state capitol." Derek slid a high-resolution surveillance photo across the table. Decker's remaining color drained. The image showed him on the deck of a luxury yacht in Miami, shaking hands with a man in a white linen suit. "Mateo Vargas, senior logistics for the Sinaloa cartel, currently on the Bureau's most wanted list." Decker began to shake. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Stop lying." Derek's voice cracked like a whip. "We followed the money, the $25,000 shakedowns, the stolen grants. That was pocket change to keep your deputies fat and loyal. The real money was the highway. Interstate 90 runs straight through your jurisdiction. You and your department provided armed escorts for cartel shipments moving from the southern border to Chicago and Detroit." He leaned in until his eyes pinned Decker like a specimen. 3 months ago, an undercover DEA agent named David Miller got too close. His car was found wrapped around a pine on Route 44. Your people ruled it a drunk driving accident. Your coroner cremated the body before federal investigators could request a second autopsy. Decker was hyperventilating. I didn't kill him. I swear to God I didn't touch the Fed. That was out of my hands. Whose hands, Thomas? I didn't come to this miserable town to bust a few corrupt traffic cops. I came for the architect who ordered the hit on Agent Miller and brokered the deal with Vargas. If I tell you I'm dead, they'll kill my family. You don't understand the reach. If you don't tell me, you go to ADX Florence, 23 hours a day in a soundproof box. You will never see the sky. You will die forgotten. I am the director of the FBI. I can put your family in witness protection, but you give me the name, right now. The silence was absolute. Decker looked at the photo, at the recorder, at the immovable man across the table. He broke. Senator Clayton Hammond. The name tore out of him like poison. Derek did not react outwardly. Internally, the final piece locked into place with devastating clarity. Hammond chaired the State Appropriations Committee. He had championed the massive federal infrastructure grants that had poured into towns like Fairview. Hammond built the corridor, Decker confessed in a frantic rush. He used the grants to militarize us so we could protect the shipments. Offshore shells in Delaware under ironclad logistics. The cartel pays Hammond. Hammond pays me to keep the roads clear. I let my boys shake down tourists to keep them distracted and loyal. And Agent Miller? Miller found the ledger connecting Ironclad to the cartel. Hammond panicked, sent a private contractor, a fixer, to run him off the road. I just covered it up. That's all I did, I swear. Derek stared at the broken man for a long moment. He had the confession. He had the link. The rot was not local. It reached the highest levels of state government. He stood, closing the folder. You're going to write every word of that down. Then you're going to testify before a federal grand jury. We had a deal. Witness protection for my family. Your family will be protected. You will still serve time. The Bureau honors its agreements. We do not forgive the murder of one of our own. Derek stepped out into the chaotic bullpen. Reed was waiting with a secure satellite phone. Director, the forensic team found the ledgers. Massive network. Dozens of shell accounts. Hundreds of millions. I know. Derek's voice was iron. Spin up the hostage rescue team. Draft the warrants for the state capitol. We're going to pay a visit to Senator Clayton Hammond. 60 miles away, the landscape changed to manicured lawns, towering wrought iron gates, and unapologetic wealth. Senator Clayton Hammond's private estate sprawled across 200 acres of pristine Ohio countryside, a monument built on stolen tax dollars and the blood of the vulnerable. Inside the mahogany-paneled study, Hammond, 65, silver hair, perfect, charcoal suit bespoke, poured a glass of 20-year Macallan when his encrypted satellite phone vibrated. The phone was for emergencies only. Speak. Fairview has gone completely dark. The voice on the other end belonged to Special Agent Foster, a mid-level mole Hammond had bought inside the Cleveland field office 3 years earlier. Local lines dead, precinct servers unresponsive. The federal magistrate just signed a blind warrant for your arrest. HRT is mobilizing. Hammond's blood ran cold, but political training kept his voice level. On whose authority? Whitmore is in Washington. No, he's not. Director Whitmore went off-grid 36 hours ago. Rumor is he ran a one-man sting on Interstate 90. He triggered the raid himself. They're coming for you right now. The line went dead. Hammond stared at the phone. For a decade, he had operated with absolute impunity, using the state legislature as a shield while serving as the primary logistical conduit for the Sinaloa cartel. Brilliant, flawless, highly lucrative. And now a single man had dismantled the foundation in a matter of hours. He slammed his fist on the desk and hit the intercom. Donovan, now! The heavy doors opened. Donovan Cross, dishonorably discharged former mercenary, dead eyes, jagged scar down the jaw, stepped inside. He was the man who had run Agent Miller off the road and made sure the wreckage burned. "Catastrophic breach," Hammond barked, moving to a bookshelf. He pulled a volume of the legal encyclopedia. A biometric safe hissed open. Bearer bonds, forged passports, an encrypted hard drive containing the backup ledgers for ironclad logistics. "Fairview is compromised. FBI is en route. Warm the helicopter. Private airstrip outside Columbus. Vargas has a jet waiting. We burn the estate." "Understood." Cross drew a suppressed pistol. "Perimeter security. How much time?" "Less than 10 minutes. Hammond's estimate was tragically wrong. The low, rhythmic thump of rotor blades rattled the crystal decanter on the desk. Not the high whine of Hammond's private bird. The heavy pulse of twin-engine UH-60 Black Hawks. Cross rushed to the reinforced window. The estate was already enveloped. 3 matte black helicopters hovered above the tree line, fast-roping operators in full kit onto the lawn. Simultaneously, a convoy of armored Bearcats smashed through the wrought iron gates, tearing up the immaculate driveway. "Underground garage, now!" They sprinted for the secret door behind the fireplace, down the narrow concrete stairs toward the reinforced bunker and private tunnel. Hammond's heart hammered against his ribs. He was a creature of backroom deals and tailored suits, completely unequipped for the visceral terror of a tactical siege. At the bottom of the stairs, Cross punched the code. The heavy blast door hissed open. As Cross cleared the threshold, the shadows detached themselves from the walls. A blinding strobe flared. An HRT operator stepped out of the blind spot and drove the butt of an M4 into Cross's sternum, with enough force to shatter ribs. The mercenary crashed to the concrete, pistol skittering away into the dark. "Hands behind your back! Do not move!" Hammond froze, duffel bag slipping from his fingers. Out of the darkness stepped a figure wearing no body armor, no night vision, only a crisp suit jacket over a navy sweater. Derek Whitmore looked at the trembling senator with eyes as cold as absolute zero. "Going somewhere, Senator?" Hammond's voice cracked despite the attempt at smoothness. "Director Whitmore, this is an unconstitutional invasion of a state official's property. You have no jurisdiction. I chair the Appropriations Committee. I will have your badge. I will end your career before it begins." "My career is fine, Clayton. Yours ended the moment you ordered the assassination of DEA agent David Miller." Hammond flinched, but held the politician's mask. "I don't know what you're talking about. You have no proof. A confession coerced from a corrupt small-town captain won't hold up. Hearsay." "You're right. Decker's word alone isn't enough to bury a man with your connections. That's why we didn't rely on it." Derek pulled a thin silver phone from his jacket and held it up. A live feed from the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Division glowed on the screen. "While you were packing, my cyber division working with Treasury cracked the routing numbers provided by your mole. Agent Foster, did you really think we didn't know you had a rat in the Cleveland office? We fed him the Fairview raid coordinates an hour late just to see who he would call. He called you. And while he was doing that, we seized the servers for ironclad logistics. We have the wire transfers, Clayton. Every dollar you moved for Mateo Vargas. Every bribe you paid Captain Decker. We even have the digital footprint of the wire you sent Donovan Cross the day Agent Miller was killed." Hammond backed until his shoulders hit the cold concrete. The political armor was gone. He was nothing but an old, corrupt man caught in a trap he could not bribe his way out of. "Vargas will kill me," he whispered. Tears spilled over his cheeks. "If the cartel knows the ledgers are in FBI hands, they will slaughter my entire family. Then I suggest you cooperate fully with the Department of Justice." Derek stepped forward, seized Hammond by the lapels of the expensive suit, and pulled him away from the wall. "Senator Clayton Hammond, you are under arrest for treason, racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit the murder of a federal agent. You have the right to remain silent. I highly suggest you use it." He shoved the senator into the waiting arms of two HRT operators. Steel cuffs locked around wrists that had never felt them before. The sun rose over Ohio the next morning in hard gold and crimson, washing the darkness from Fairview for the first time in years. By 8 a.m., national networks were live from the municipal courthouse as federal agents carried out boxes of evidence. Chopper footage showed the senator's sprawling estate crawling with forensics teams. Images of heavily armed local officers being loaded onto federal prison buses went viral worldwide, a stark, undeniable testament to the cost of absolute corruption. Derek Whitmore did not stay for the press conferences. He left that to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice spokespeople in Washington. He cared only about the mission. The dismantling of the Hammond syndicate created a vacuum. Within 48 hours, the Treasury formally indicted Mateo Vargas and froze more than $300 million in cartel assets tied to the ironclad shells. Donovan Cross, staring at a lethal injection for the murder of Agent Miller, flipped and gave the DEA the locations of 5 major Midwest distribution hubs. Judge Hargrove, Prosecutor Langford, Captain Decker, Officers Roscoe and Cole were all denied bail. They sat in isolation cells in a maximum security federal facility, stripped of badges, power, and the false superiority they had worn like armor. They would die behind those walls. Fairview itself was placed under emergency federal receivership. The stolen infrastructure funds were seized from the offshore accounts and returned to the community. Within weeks, real auditors, protected by federal marshals, began the long work of repair. Roads were paved, schools received the funding that had been promised for years. An entirely new, heavily vetted police force was stood up under strict federal oversight. 2 weeks after the raid, a quiet ceremony was held at DEA headquarters in Virginia. Derek stood in the back of the auditorium in his formal dress uniform and watched the administrator present the Medal of Valor to the widow of Agent David Miller. There were no dry eyes in the room. It could not bring the young agent back, but it cleared his name of the slander the Fairview police had manufactured. His sacrifice was honored. The men who killed him were bound for the darkest cells the government could provide. Afterward, Derek returned to his office at the J. Edgar Hoover building. The expansive windows overlooked the heart of Washington, a city built on ideals that were constantly under siege by human greed. He removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and sat at a desk already piled with new dossiers, new threats, new shadows waiting to be exposed. His private secure line rang. "Whitmore, Director, Special Agent in Charge." Caleb Reed's voice was crisp. "We have a developing situation at a port authority in Louisiana. Patterns match a human trafficking ring operating under the cover of maritime logistics. Local law enforcement appears to be looking the other way." Derek looked at the mountain of paper, then out at the American flag snapping above the Capitol. The work never ended. There would always be wolves in sheep's clothing, men who believed the badge gave them the right to play God over the innocent. As long as he drew breath, he would be the apex predator waiting in the dark. "Get a tactical team on standby, Caleb, and prep a civilian cover identity for me. I think it's time I took a drive down south." He hung up. His eyes stayed on the horizon. The trap was set. The hunt continued.